All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome on in. This is the maiden episode of Fresh Files RPG Limit Break podcast. The mission of Fresh Files is we're going to bring you timely discussion of new RPGs, mainly from a casual perspective, but we're also going to approach our discussions with a little bit of a speedrun curious eye. Those of us, I've got a couple great RPG speedrunners with me here. We're RPG fans first and foremost. We love these games. We want to talk about them. We want to geek out about them, and we just really hope you enjoy us as we develop this series. Have some fun conversations just about new games. We've got a couple episodes already planned for the rest of the year, just to kind of get things kicked off and get some episodes together so that we can build on this concept. But yeah, it's basically just a space where we can all get together and talk about new RPGs. And I'm super excited to be helping to facilitate that. So, for this maiden episode, our main discussion is going to be all about Clair Obscur Expedition 3. As always, we'll be keeping our discussion relatively spoiler free, so don't worry too much about getting anything spoiled. If you haven't finished the game yet, like me, or if you haven't gotten a chance to pick it up yet yourself, but we're all very excited to share our thoughts. This is an excellent first outing from French studio Sandfall Interactive. My name is moonblazewolf. You can call me Blaze, as always. I have two fantastic special guests joining me for today's discussion. I really hope they can speak a little bit more French than I can, so I don't embarrass myself at all. Trying to maybe make jokes and puns about the game, today's game. But I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves and just talk a little bit about their experiences. Kios, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. Hi, friends. I'm Kios. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Yeah, it's a great game. I have nothing but excitement for it. And I've been looking a little bit at the speed run for it, but I will defer to Etiquette on that.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Etiquette. I normally speedrun Pokemon. That's probably if you know my name, that's where you know it from. But this game has torn me away from Pokemon, at least for the last 3 or 4 months, and it's been an absolute blast. I can't say enough good things about the game.
All right, great. I'm just going to take a quick second here, make sure that we're clear on the audio tech issues front. Hopefully we are. If not, I'm sure chat will let me know. Chat always lets you know if there's any kind of technical. Actually, we're going to get to that discussion of Expedition 33 in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to just call out a couple ways that you, our dear viewers and listeners, support the RPG Limit Break community. First of all, did you know that we have an RPG Limit Break store and that the RPG Limit Break store has that you can buy dollars and other forms of currency? Well, now you do, and you can get some for yourself. You just have to head on over to store.limitbreak.com. There's a great selection of shirts, hoodies, hats, cups, hats, so much more. And it's a great way to show your support for this community each and every day. Secondly, I just want to make sure that you know that if you follow this channel, most weekends, usually on Sundays, I actually made an exception for my show because I'm really bad at planning. But usually on Sundays, you can check out the full side quest series. And that is going to be a series of showcases with some of your favorite RPG titles, hosted by several members of the RPG Limit Break content team, such as myself, such as Kios. But you can check out a variety of different shows and speedruns and focuses. Tomorrow, we're featuring what I've been informed is, and I quote, Stardew Valley Silliness, featuring Zachary 20X, hosted by Seltooth Mind. And then later on in August, you'll also be able to see runs of Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, and a Breath of Fire 2 Task Showcase. So please make sure that you check out those shows, support awesome RPGs and RPG running content all throughout the year here at RPG Limit Break. So that's my little bit of housekeeping before we get underway. But yeah, I just want to talk about this game. It is very, very uncommon that we see a game like this from a new developer on their first outing. It just seems incredible, really high marks across the word. Honestly, the thing that I always look for when I know a game is maybe broken through is I have my non-RPG friends constantly are talking about it. It kind of happened with like Baldur's Gate 3 a couple of years ago, and it's happening again with this game. So, Etiquette, you played this game, and like you said, it's kind of consumed your life for the last few months now. Um, you know, give us like your high-level thoughts and summary of Expedition 33.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, it's an RPG, very JRPG feeling, but obviously it's got the French influence, and that is very apparent in a lot of jokes, and just a lot of the dialogue and stuff like that. Even some of like the environments, um, and it's got this really cool mix of. So I guess first and foremost, it is a turn-based RPG, which I know a lot of the especially like on the AAA side, a lot of RPGs are moving away from turn-based into more action RPG. And this kind of brought it back and brought it back with a vengeance because it adds this whole, element of counters and parries, which isn't exactly new to this game or to the genre as a whole. But this game executes it really well. And it really makes these battles really engaging and really fulfilling to pull off. Like, you can theoretically get through the entire game without taking any damage because you can counter or you can dodge pretty much every attack, and so it just sort of adds that extra level of like, did I get through this fight? Yes. Could I get through it better? And getting through fights damageless is really, really, really rewarding. um but yeah, it's also got like an amazing story. Obviously, we're not going to get into any spoilers really, but it's really gripping right from the start. It is a really just a fantastic game, and it's honestly it's hard to believe that this is, like you said, Sandfall's first sort of foray into the industry. It's their first game, and it does not feel like their first game.
Kios. Yeah, Etiquette talked a lot about some of the gameplay, some other things there. What's your experience been with this game so far? What do you think about it?
I honestly fell in love with it as well. And I know, like you said, it's kind of broken through the mainstream, like very much kind of like Baldur's Gate 3 did. But like when you open up Twitch and people that are not even known for gameplay are playing it and absolutely ranting and raving about it, like it's done something. Like there was, to be honest, like I know we're just surface level right now, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but like even just the development side of this game was everything just came together so smoothly. Um, but yeah, like Etiquette said, the turn-based combat is really neat to see. I know that's someone who spends a lot of time in the ARPG world, especially on the speedrun side. I hear the calls for turn-based combat all the time, and there are always really good alternatives that I'm sure we'll touch on. I know you mentioned Octopath, we'll get to that later. um, but it is nice to see something modern outside of the normal Square Enixes or Atlas. They do great work, but just a new entry into it. But like Etiquette said, it's very engaging and very interactive for turn-based, and I think that's going to set a precedent for what we see from turn-based games, coming forward, whether it's, you know, a parry, a counter, free aim, something like that, or um, just like more interactive use of abilities and skill sets. Um, but yeah, this is one of those very rare games that I find that there is a very low like skill floor. Like you can just pick it up, you can get through the game without dodging or parrying or countering. It's very easy to do so. But like Etiquette said, if you enjoy that very challenging, super high skill ceiling kind of gameplay, this is also that game. So I've just been utterly impressed with it. I think the parcel, the package, this is for me, a very strong game of the year contender. I would be surprised if it wasn't listed as one of the top games this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely, I've seen a lot of the buzz that way as well, and I think the accessibility that you bring up is really important, and it's been a big part of why the game has been as successful as it is. Puexel in chat also mentioned it was only priced at. I say only, but like in the current age, like this is pretty uncommon. But the charging only $50 for this game,
Mm-hmm.
uh, considering the high level of polish and quality, especially on like the graphics front that you see with the game, and like fully voice acted, all of that stuff. Also very, very, I think it positioned itself very well for success
Very
in a
much
lot of
so.
regards, and they seem to make a lot of really good choices in terms of the systems and the presentation and a lot of those things to really, I think, just appeal to probably a wide range of RPG fans. But then I think because the game itself became uh the word of mouth, like it became very approachable to other groups as well that maybe don't play every RPG that came out and stuff like that. So I think that is, the formula. Like a lot of places can definitely, take some notes on why this game has been as successful as it has been. Um, and we're really just kind of talking about the systems and some of these other elements. I mean, a couple things I sort of mentioned, but visually it's just beautiful. The worlds are very vibrant, but they're also very unnatural in a lot of ways, like especially the way they use color, things like that. It's extremely surreal when you're playing through the game. And I feel like they also did a really good job of like making each of the areas seem unique, which can be really hard to do sometimes. So, they created all these cool little biomes for the game and for you to experience and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, definitely. Like talking about the different areas, like one of the early game areas, no spoilers in the name, like is this area called Flying Waters. And like
Mhm.
you walk into that area and like there's like a pre-rendered cutscene that happens like after you take a few steps in, and like it's just an absolutely gorgeous area of the game. And that kind of level of detail exists in pretty much every area. There's always something new to see. Like I've obviously, like as a speedrunner, I've played through the game now dozens of times. But like every time I do, like I will notice something new, and it's like, oh my god, that's like it sort of fell to the background in my first play, but like this is a thing that just helps build the world. And like especially once you get toward late game and you understand a lot more about the world, a lot of these things sort of catch your eye a little bit more, and you're like, oh, this is really interesting. There's just so much to see, and it's tough to catch it all. But once you do, it's just
I see what you
amazing.
did there.
Yeah.
You can remove the Pokemon from the Pokemon Street or something. There's a joke in there somewhere, but
There is.
yeah. Kios, go ahead.
Yeah, just like the attention to detail on a lot of small things, and like that when we talk, or personally, like when I talk about like polish on a game is exactly where etiquette's at. It's not like, oh, there's extra shine and god rays. It's like the little things. Like there's a late game area where it's a rather intensive area. There's a lot of climbing involved, but as you look around, there's like little things on desks, little notes scrawled. Like the areas are very lived in, and the use of color is tremendous. I'm not like a huge color theory person, but a lot of the symbolism and themes in the game are also tied to color, which is very impressive. And the
Mhm.
I guess as we were earlier talking about like atmospheric games, Kingsfield stuff, the music direction in this game for every cutscene, every boss fight, every area, it just all clicks together. Which is impressive for the composer. They just found some dude on SoundCloud and were like, "Do you want to make a video game soundtrack?" Like it is just so good. For me, like honestly, the OST was on repeat, and it's a tremendously large OST, by the way.
Oh
They
yeah.
released, and it's something like 8 or 9 hours of music. But I cycled through that probably for like a month straight. It's just it's tremendous. Like I run out of words to praise how good this thing was. And like Plexel mentioned, if it ever goes on sale, $33 is a great price point for this game, I think.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what you said about the music as well. You
Mhm.
know, the amount that I played, like it's already so catchy. Like the variety of music that you get as well. Like there's some tracks that feel a little bit more electronic. There's some that are very folksy. There's some that are very French, for lack of a better term. Like they really, I mean, they're the boss music and like areas each have their own theme, and it all really works well. The characters have their own themes, obviously too.
Mhm.
So. Um, but yeah, just extremely good. I think one of the other things about this game that we haven't touched on yet, it's relatively short compared to a lot of modern RPGs that in AAA RPGs that get released, and um, I think that again it kind of really works in its favor as far as like appealing to a wide audience and a wide selection of potential players because we were kind of talking about this a little bit before we got out of the air, but like I don't have time for like every game being 70 to 90 hours long.
Mhm.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
gotta like keep it tight and keep it cozy, and I feel like that is another strength of this game is it is very focused on the journey and what it is trying to do, and it's not trying to overwhelm you with you know extra content or you know the optional stuff is there, but it's very kind of just like it's just a little off the beaten path. Like you don't have to go
Mhm.
too far to get to it. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just checked my Steam playthrough. For me, not like a full how long to beat, but I don't want to say everything, but I did pretty much all of the side content. About 70 hours, but I mean, Etiquette, you've speedran it quite a few times. Like, what would you say? Like, I just want to play the story. What would your time frame be for it?
Yeah, if your goal is to get through the game, learn everything about the story, but not necessarily dive into the side stuff, which I would recommend doing side stuff because there's a lot of extra context you can get. Um, but yeah, I think my first playthrough, which was accelerated because I got about halfway through the game and was like, I want to speedrun this, but I can't start until I've beaten it.
Mhm.
Um, was probably about 20 hours.
Yeah,
And if
that's
you
right.
just completely beeline, you can absolutely do it in less than that. For reference, the speedrun, there's three categories or three full game main categories. There's some glitches involved, but the glitchless run is a bit under 2 hours. It's like with real time, it's in the 140s. So it is now there are skippable cutscenes, which as an RPG runner of a certain Pokemon series, I very much appreciate skippable cutscenes. But it's yeah, that just kind of goes to show like it's not super long, but the content is there if you want it.
yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And I it's so it really entices you to want to explore every area too, for a variety of ways. Like, um, it does. I think it does a pretty good job of giving you a taste of like what some of the secrets are, even just from the very early on areas where like even before you leave the harbor, like you can find a mime, and then there's like mimes once you get out, into the
Mhm.
field. I guess way to call it, and it sort of walks you past like the first of the Nevrons that is kind of like malfunctioning or whatever is like a side objective, maybe like a bonus mini boss or something like that. But then like you can find other ones, they're a little off the beaten path a lot of times, but they're there and like you kind of know to look for them. Things like that. So it does a really good job of kind of letting early on some things that you could do to maybe find some secrets and special things, stuff like that. And yeah, just the story it's trying to tell in general is just really, really well done. Very, I think it's very compelling when you're playing the game. I think we can kind of talk about the story a little bit in broad strokes. So you're guiding Expedition 33, which is a group of characters. Every year there is a mountain or a tower or whatever, and the number ticks down. And so when it goes from like 34 to 33, everybody who is older than that number basically dies on the spot. You kind of see it at the very beginning of the game. It's very, tragic. It's a very memorable sort of scene. But then like, the stakes are there. Like you have got to do this, or the next generation, or the next year worth of the population is going to die. And it's just it immediately invokes a lot of I play Final Fantasy X a lot. That's one of my main speedrun games, and one of the core elements of the story in Final Fantasy X is every 10 years, Sin comes back and wreaks havoc on the world, and it's got a lot of that going on. But I love the direction that they take a lot of the human elements in, as far as the expeditions, and it kind of being like this annual tradition almost. And one of those things is when you're on your own expedition, you find the journals of the previous expeditions, and just some really, really cool stuff that they do with that in particular. So, anything else about the story that I'm missing that, really struck you, the two of you, when you played it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I think one of the things that is was kind of tricky on the first playthrough is it definitely like it feels like a lot of characters, depending on how far you are in the game, it feels like a lot of characters and a lot of information you're getting are like spoken to you in riddles almost, and it's like I'm telling you exactly what's happening, but like not straightforward. You can't figure this out unless you have more context. And like that can be, I've seen some people be like, this is frustrating. Like, why won't they just tell me what's going on? But like, to me, that was a way of like, well, I have to keep playing because I need to know what they're talking about. And like, I need to be able to figure this out. And so like, that was one of the things that really got me. Like it keeps happening. And every time you think you know what's happening, I wouldn't say it's like a twist necessarily, but like something happens that subverts that expectation. And then you now have new expectations, and it just sort of keeps going throughout the entire story.
I'll put on my analysis glasses, even though it's not a full level, but there's tie-ins with this. From what I've read through interviews and like learned from developers, like they were very open, and this is a good industry trend that I'm starting to see, is they're very open with the media that influenced them and were appreciative of in this game. I love Nier Automata, we all know that, but you can very much see like the influence from that media within the music, but not the same narrative framework. But like as Plexel mentioned, and as Etiquette mentioned, the kind of subversion of expectations in the storyline, and you think you have it figured out, and then immediately they hit you with a Uno reverse card or the Nope Chuck Testa, and it sucks you into that. But just there's the storyline does not pull punches, which is really cool. I enjoy when I can just get a very raw story, in terms of there's no real padding on it. You are just given this, and good luck, deal with it as you will. But in a very positive way. And I think that's also part of the messaging, the maybe not so much branding, but the little tidbits of, for those who come after, we continue. It adds to that riddle, and like those little journals are such a good flavor text. And like, again, they're not required to fully understand and flesh out the world. Like you'll be able to figure that out just playing through the main story, but there's just that little extra flavor they add that brings all the lore into like a nice, delicious package.
Yeah. I mean, I keep thinking about as I'm playing through the game again, just you know, Expedition 33. I should be clear, but like, how cool would it be if you were playing Final Fantasy X and like you just found random journals from like other pilgrimages? Like, you really don't see a lot of that. Like, you do
Mhm.
interact with the one that like your dad was on, and Oren was on 10 years ago, like the most recent one. But you don't really find just like, oh yeah, random summoner stopped here and they rode the shoe puff and blah blah blah. Like it would, but just stuff like that would have been really interesting.
High
To kind of
Summoner
weave in like,
Holland?
yeah,
Yeah.
got
It,
got seasick while riding the shoe puff. Bet you didn't know that about them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting too because like the game kind of sets itself up for stuff like this because you know that you're Expedition 33 and there's a cheeky little question at the beginning. It's like, oh, what was the first expedition or whatever? And you end up learning that like these expeditions have been happening on and off for the last like 67 years. So there have been like 60 attempts at doing what you're trying to do, and obviously all of them have failed. And so you start to learn. It feels like a very like fruitless task, which obviously it's a video game, so you know that you're most likely going to succeed just because that's how video games are. But like you're like, how did these other expeditions fail? And you learn like one of them there was a mutiny, right? And like everyone turned on each other. And then there's another one. I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah,
Because some of them are like really funny too. But like all of them have something that happened, and you kind of have that in the back of your mind, like, okay, while I'm sort of watching the story unfold, I need to make sure that these kinds of things aren't happening to us because at the end of the day, you're trying to succeed and stop this like vicious cycle from happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things they really go back to a lot is, we're not necessarily going to defeat the Paintress this time, but we need to make progress so that the next expedition can do, and it's just like this self-awareness that like, we're probably not going to do this thing. Like, it is an impossible task that we are being asked to do, but we're doing it anyway because maybe one day, somebody else will be able to. And when you're playing the game, it's, part of it is like, well, what's so special about this this year's expedition? Like, why is this going to be the one that's different? And you also kind of watch the characters kind of reckon with that a little bit. And it's like, there is an extreme amount of despair at the very beginning, again, without going into like any spoilers or anything, but you're just like, you can see them being like, I just need to, forget defeating the Paintress. Like, I just need to get through the day today, or like, I just need to get over that next hill. And it like just the way that the story unfolds, particularly like through their eyes, and you really get that kind of like front row seat to watching them unravel the mysteries and stuff as well, is just it's really, really compelling to see play out while you're playing the game. So
yeah, like you said, it's very like linking back, like they don't pull any punches with the story. Like within the first 30 minutes, like you're inflicted with some pretty high tier like emotional damage, and they just don't let off the gas. But the thing is, I appreciate it's in ways that you may not expect it, or like you said, it forces you to kind of really reckon like the size of the task. And I mean, it's honestly like a pretty good metaphor for life. Listen, the longest journeys start with one step, but even in the grand scheme of things, you really some days it is just one day at a time. Just make it through the next hour, the next day, the next week, and like it's a really honestly good metaphor for life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's even one of the spots, like thinking of the, what could we do to help the future expeditions, right? Like there's a mention at like in one of the first areas, it's like, oh, there are these handholds here, which like in the video game sphere is like, all right, these are conveniently placed handholds on a mountain so I can climb. But like there's lore behind that where the Gustav, one of the main characters, is like, oh, this was put here by one of the previous expeditions. And so you kind of learn a little bit about that. And there's even a part semi early in the game where one of the characters, like the team has basically suffered a defeat of some kind, emotional or otherwise. And one of the characters is basically like completely reserved to the fact that their expedition has failed and is like, all right, we need to, compile all of our information and like build our journal for the next expedition. And, you've got the other characters that kind of come in and are like, no, we can still do this. Like we still have, tomorrow still comes.
Yep.
And, it's stuff like that. It's really good. It's a really like tight knit group of people that you get to play as, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just a couple other quick thoughts. Like the battle system, I think there's a lot to really like about the battle system, both at the execution level and kind of like what's going on under the hood. I really like I have a few nitpicks with it, but I really like the Pictos and Lumina system as a way to kind of uniquely build your characters, but also kind of like draw from a common pool of abilities that everybody conceivably has access to. Every character also kind of has like their own unique mechanic as well. There's elemental stains, there's stances. One of the characters is like a fencer with stances. There's other things like that, but overall I think they work pretty well. There's a few things I wish was a little more clear. Like I think the first time I tried to play through the game, I didn't understand like that you had to equip the Luminas separately after you learned them. Like I thought you learned them and then you just had them. Like not the like point system and the other stuff that they get into. But any like favorites or maybe duds for the two of you with like the actual like battle systems and like equipment systems and things like that? Kios, how about you go first?
Yeah. No, I agree. Like my first playthrough, it took me like an hour or two until I was like, oh, I have to equip. Oh, okay. Well, now I'm not getting absolutely, turfed into the ground. Okay. I like it. I like that it's aggressively experimental in the fact that I think it's the recoats are what they call them in the game. It's basically like a free like a respec token. By the end of the game, if you're doing all the side quests, like you have more than you could ever need. Like if you want to completely respec your entire party 20 times over, you can. And I think you can reset the skill tree for free, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's also a recoat.
Oh yeah, it's also a recoat. But like you get more than enough resources to completely redo your party if you wanted to. And I love that you're not like some games, it's great. Linear, lock in, this is your tank, this is your healer. Cool. I like that. This game, if you want to turn, let's take Mael. You can turn her into a 1 HP status affecting glass cannon. You can do that. Or you can turn her into like the party kind of support buff. She tanks all the damage. Like it gives you a lot of options with playability, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the ability to build the different characters in different ways. Just tying back to the speedrun a little bit. So we have a category for the story difficulty, which I actually have a note about story I wanted to mention, but I'll do it after. Which is sort of like the easy difficulty, and then they have an expert category, where the main differences in terms of the battles are the windows of time you have for dodges and parries, as well as on expert, all enemies have like a bit more HP. And the speed run for the two do like a lot of completely different things, even down to like some of the characters are just built in a different way. There's one of the characters who's like primarily like the melee attacker type person, that you use in one way to do like some high burst damage with multi-hit attacks on story mode, but then on expert, like he's way more of a, let me give my party members AP, which is like the stamina or whatever you want to call it. And so it's like just seeing this character go from being like the high damage to the support role. It's the same exact character, just a completely different build is really something. But one of the issues I have with the game, or not with the game, but like with my first playthrough especially, is like a lot of these battle mechanics, because every character has their own unique mechanic to them.
Yeah.
It can be tough because like you get this new character and you're like really excited, and then you go to use them in battle and you just have like this giant screen that explains everything and explains it really well, but like you don't have the context of why it's important necessarily. And so there's a character, CL, who her thing is like she has like two kinds of moves where like one of them is the moon and one of them is the sun. And you get extra bonuses for using certain moves when you have this more suns than moons. But then if you have both of them, you have Twilight, which does more damage. And like that, I just did not get that on my first playthrough at all.
Yeah, it took a little bit of investigating and putzing around.
Yeah.
We were talking about the combat a little more too, just generally. Like, I think one of the things I would have liked to see in this game, just because the dodge and parry mechanics can be very punishing if you are seeing an enemy for like the first time. I almost wish they had done something with like the past expeditions where like you saw a log of like like here's the here's the monsters that are going to be in this area and here's what they do. I like almost like a little arena or something like that. Totally optional, but like, I'm going into this new area. If I don't want to like, get pounded into dust like my first couple fights, then I can train on this or something. You mean you could do the same thing with like new characters as well, maybe to just kind of like give people a sandbox environment or something to play around with them a little bit. But
I will say I do enjoy it's one of my favorite things. This is one of those games where you can like really just stack damage. Like multiplicatives are great. Like you said, there is a setup to one shot every fight in this game. Like it is definitely doable. And part of me just like loves that. Like the game gives you the freedom that you can realistically just mechanic your way through the game if you really want to. Like stuff like that's neat.
Yeah, and it is very apparent from the beginning, and you even saw this like the week or so, even when the first game came out, you would see like social media posts of like, I just did X million damage to so and so, and it's like the game really encourages you to like break the systems that it's putting in front of you too, and I think that's kind of the seeding control of that. Like they obviously just had a lot of really cool ideas. Let's just get them all out there and see what people can do with those mechanics, and I love that. And I'm sure that's something that's gone into the speedrun a lot as well, is like optimally mathing through like the various encounters and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the speedrun is kind of interesting because for a chunk of the game, like we're talking about millions of damage, right? But a chunk of the game you actually have a damage cap. And so it becomes like the beginning of the game is kind of this struggle to, increase all these multipliers, which one of the coolest things I think about this game, and this is not unique to this game, but there's a difference between like 20% more damage and 20% increased damage, where there's like one set of multipliers that are added and one set that are multiplied. And so like you can do some wild stuff if you can like get a handle on that. But anyway, so the beginning of the game is a lot of like try to get as much damage as possible, which we use a lot of. We were talking about the stances earlier with Mael. Like Mael's got one stance that is very powerful if you know how to use it, and so like that's where a lot of that damage comes in. And then you start flirting with the damage cap, and now it's no longer how much damage can I do; it's how many times can I hit my opponent in like a single turn. And so anyone who's got a multi-hit move, whether it be 3 hits, 5 hits, or like one of the moves has the potential to do like 12 hits. Now you can do a single turn, and instead of being capped at 10,000 damage, you can do like 120,000 damage in a single turn if you set everything up right. And so that adds this like really cool dynamic of like it's no longer how much damage, it's how many times can I hit my opponent, which is just, again, as somebody coming from like a mainly Pokemon background, like that's just not a thing for us. So
yeah,
like it honestly reminds me a lot of like the SMT style speed runs where it's a lot of buff, one big hit, buff, 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 or like even like some of the Dragon Quest speed runs, which sometimes can be frustrating, but like when it's in such an active environment like this game, totally different feel. You're doing the same thing, but it just there's something interesting about it because of how it's animated and just like the little touches that make it feel fresh.
Yeah. Enemies also seem like they do a lot of status effects in this game too, which is not something I think we're as accustomed to in a lot of traditional RPGs. And so that is, kind of just getting back to the idea of like, I want to set up this really cool turn, like this really big, like burst damage. And, if I don't dodge that one attack, then like, it's going to totally throw a wrench in my plans or whatever. So there's a lot of really good tension in the battle system. I think if if you're playing it that way. So, but yeah, we've been talking about the game for quite a while. Etiquette, is there anything else you wanted to kind of shout out or share about the speedrun? I know it's just an incredibly popular RPG speedrun right now, but if you have anything else you want to talk about, floor is yours, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on most of what I wanted to. I did want to mention we were talking about like different communities of people, like either non-gamers or like people who just don't play RPGs have been taking to this game. The community we have for Expedition 33 is like one of the weirdest like conglomerations of people where you've got a lot of people coming from like a Final Fantasy or Pokemon or whatever it is background on the RPG side, but you also have a ton of Souls runners who are coming in, and it's really cool to see the different perspectives. The routing that's gone into the game is incredible. There are, like I said, there's a glitchless category, and then there are two versions of a glitched category. There is one particular glitch that you can do with the stats to like overflow the stat screen, so you get like a ton of stats at the beginning, and so like that's in the unrestricted category that you can do absolutely everything. And then there's one that's a little bit more tame than that, but it's really cool. It's really really rewarding. Pretty much every fight in the game is learnable, which is something that like a lot of RPGs, like you can learn the strategy for, but like you're still kind of at the mercy of RNG at the end of the day. This has like, if you know how to dodge or parry these attacks, like you can get through the game, and through every run. There's no what am I looking for? The like damage rolls. It's the only like variety in damage is either you critical hit or you don't. And there are ways to influence your critical hit rate. So it's a really fun run. It's really, really rewarding. The amount of times, both like while doing the speed run as well as like casually playing, the amount of times where it's like I finally get through this boss, and like that rush or that feeling is it's just incredible. I had my first complete damageless playthrough a few weeks ago, and it was great. And then I had a run in the expert category where there are some strategies you use where you take intentional damage, but I got through a run with no unintentional damage, and that was like just one of my favorite gaming accomplishments. Right? It's such a rewarding game. It's honestly, I can't say enough good things.
Very cool. Yeah. Hearing you talk about something, I run a Super Mario RPG, the remake specifically, but I mean the battle mechanics like really have that flavor to them as well. And yeah, like when you have a fight go perfectly or when you hit all like your perfect dodges, like those are the best moments for sure.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Kios, anything else you want to say about Expedition 33?
I don't know how to. You know what? Yeah, I'll go with that. I think one of the things I really, really, truly enjoy is, forgive me on that. Pods are sending me messages. What I really enjoy is just kind of how deep the Lumina system is, and like we talked about, there's like listen, you've played RPGs or action games, like we're used to poison and burn, but like it really brings back a lot of lesser used kind of mechanics like doom and inverse, and freeze and stuff like that. That's really neat, but the Lumina system plays really well into it. and I know some of it's part of the speed run, some of it's casual, but like there are some really cool effects that you can get within the game of like, oh, if your character goes below 30% health, they immediately get a turn. Like there are so many like neat little mechanics that they added to this game that like it really lends itself to like really creative playthroughs and almost challenge runs. Like I've already seen quite a few of those starting to pop up, and I just think it's really neat to see games give you like almost it feels very similar to like Baldur's Gate 3. Like at the last big update, they're like, here's all the mod tools, here's all of our asset packs. Have fun. See you later. Like we're done. Like our contract is ended, and here you go. Have fun. Here's everything for the game that you could possibly want. Have at it. And like I not in like the dismissive attitude, but I really like when there are so many options and ways you can interact with something. And it like Etiquette said, you've been through it what, dozens of times now. It's still fun. It's still rewarding.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing that I've had. There's just an utter joy surrounding this game and how you can interact with it.
Yeah. I think that is a great great spot to leave it. But yeah, thank you everybody for we're going to move on. We're going to talk about some other stuff, but yeah, this was a great discussion of Expedition 33, everything we love about it, why we're enjoying it, why Blaze needs to finish this game already, you know, all that good stuff. But yeah, wonderful discussion. We are going to move on to a rundown of some recent news in the world of RPGs. So I've got a little list here. We'll let you all comment if there's anything in particular that jumps out to you as we're going through. I suspect there will be one or two things along the way, but just some upcoming RPG news and maybe some developments that you may not have been aware of. So first of all, Trails in the Sky First Chapter, also known as the Trails in the Sky FC remake, got its first English trailer this week following a previously released Japanese trailer. In a separate interview, Falcom president Toshihiro Kondo disclosed that the playtime of the remake was about twice as long as the original, at least for one programmer on the development team. And that was coming in at about 80 hours of playtime. So who's ready for an 80-hour remake of Trails in the Sky FC?
Hey, as long as it's listen. I think the most difficult thing for a lot of people is just those games are a lot. They're very dense. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually really looking forward to this. I have dabbled in playing the original Trails a few times now. Haven't really managed to have it break through, but I really love what it's doing. So I'm looking forward to, you know, playing a more modern update on that. So, and that is going to be releasing about a month from now. It's going to be releasing on Switch, PS5, and Steam on September 19th. We also had a Nintendo Direct for partner titles on July 31st, and there were two new Square Enix HD 2D RPGs that were announced during that Nintendo Direct. The first of those was The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales. It's going to be an action RPG. You're playing as the aforementioned Elliot, who looks surprisingly like a red mage in the trailer that we saw. He also has a playable fairy companion named Faye, and there is a promised two-player mode to that game as well. Game has a playable demo out now. A lot of players seem to be noticing some serious vibes and callbacks to the original Final Fantasy adventure, which is kind of interesting, especially when you look at this is the same group that made the if I'm not mistaken, has made several of the HD 2D games already, and they do seem to be kind of picking on some of the lesser known older titles in the Square Enix library for kind of like source material. So it'll be interesting to see what this game does. Has either of you played the demo? I didn't get a chance to, but it looks pretty cool. So.
Yet.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to. I did rewatch the direct, like knowing that this was on the rundown. And one of the things I found interesting was not only is there a playable demo, they also mentioned something about having like a player feedback form alongside the demo, which I think is a really interesting thing that not a lot of games do. So it'd be interesting to see what comes of that.
Yeah, no, I like that because I know it's something that Sega and Atlas have both really started doing. I want to say maybe like a year or two ago, and that's why we have a lot of Atlas ports on PC now, and a lot
Mm.
of like re-releases of stuff that was could you find it? Yes, but um, I think it's a great way to actually figure out what your audience wants. People who are passionate about things get a chance to voice their opinion on it.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see all of the different directions they've taken the HD 2D games as well, and I'm sure that they probably have so many different ideas and things that they might want to do, or things that they can envision themselves doing in that space. So, getting player feedback, I'm sure, helps on that. So, and speaking of those, the second title announced was Octopath Traveler 0, which will be a prequel in the Octopath series. It will allow you to play as you're the own version. You're the main character in your own Octopath story. Several supporting characters were also introduced as part of the cast, as well as a town building mechanic that was teased during the trailer. So, Octopath fans, either of you?
Yeah, I I honestly enjoyed those games. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's neat. And listen, I'm a sucker for town building. I wish I could explain why, but like, listen, Dark Cloud 2 was potentially one of the greatest games of all time, and we've not had a true successor outside of like Nino Coonies.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Octopath, one of those games that's been on my to play list for far too long. So
Mm.
I'm excited. I've got a lot of friends who enjoy the series, but I would probably want to play the other two first.
Yeah, I definitely want to play 2. I finally grabbed that on a recent Steam sale. It came down quite nicely, and
Mm.
hopefully I have the bandwidth to check that out at some point. But yeah, the original Octopath was a lot of fun. I did enjoy that game quite a bit. So,
Good
but yeah,
OST too.
I am also a sucker for a good town building mechanic. So we'll see what they can do. For those titles, Adventures of Elliot is going to be released in 2026. Exact date TBD. Octopath Traveler 0 does have a release date of December 4th, 2025. So I want to shout out a couple other high-profile indies that one of them actually just released and the other is releasing in a couple weeks. A port slash remaster of the 2008 RPG Off was released yesterday
Oh yeah.
for Steam and the Nintendo Switch. Let me do the next one as well. I think Kios, you're probably going to want to talk about both of these. The second is this is one I'm very excited for. Turn-based tactical RPG Demon School is
Yep.
finally releasing for all current consoles as well as Steam and Epic Game Store on September 3rd, and that is a game I have been following for a couple years now because it has been in a long-term development. So it's really, really exciting to see Demon School coming out in just a couple weeks. So yeah,
Yeah,
Kios,
no,
go ahead.
it's been one of those you just kind of have hope, and they finally pulled it all together.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they came up with. Have you played Off before? I have not personally. It's got a lot of Undertale vibes going on, it looks like.
I have not, but it's one of those things like I didn't remember it until I literally opened Steam yesterday and it was like off. I was like, "Oh wow, wait, that game?"
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's listen, sometimes a shadow drop as the industry would call it is like the best way to bring buzz.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of people do really like that game, and I'm excited for more people potentially to get a chance to check it out. So, uh, for all of the PlayStation Plus subscribers out there, Sony announced that Unicorn Overlord and Atelier Ryza 3 are coming to PlayStation Plus. On I thought it was today. I'm very bad at dates right now. August 19th. If you are an extra or premium subscriber for PlayStation Plus and you haven't gotten to play either of those games, you'll have an opportunity to do so. Unicorn Overlord in particular, can't recommend that game enough. It is a lot of fun. Definitely worth checking out. I've not played an Atelier Ryza game before, but I know a lot of folks seem to really like that series as well. So
they're kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, to be honest.
All right. Give
Best
us
way
the
to-
quick TLDR version.
Yeah, TLDR version. If you like real-time turn-based combat, and you have a deep love for crafting systems, they're worth it. Besides like the silly fan service moments, pretty entertaining.
All right. That's a good pitch right there. I like that. Big birthday news this week. Chrono Trigger's original English release turned 30 this past week. It originally released in the US on August 11th, 1995 on the Super Nintendo. So happy 30th birthday to Chrono Trigger. We were talking about this a little bit during the pre-show. I will freely admit I finally played Chrono Trigger all the way through to completion for the first time a couple years ago. I think I've actually told this story publicly before as well. It was after I played Chained Echoes, which came out in 2022. Finally, just kind of broke the dam on me wanting to play Chrono Trigger all the way through, because I'd false started on it a few times since it came out, where I'd played like the first maybe like 4 hours and then just had gotten away from me. But finally being able to sit down and play through that game a couple years ago, just an unbelievably rewarding experience. And yeah, I love that game. So good.
Yeah. I think I mentioned before, I was a Chrono Cross first player. Chrono Cross actually being, I think, the first non-Pokemon RPG I ever played. I had a Christmas where I got that, Final Fantasy IX, and Legend of Dragoon. It was a great Christmas.
That is a great Christmas. Holy cow.
That's
like
ever. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And I did play Trigger well after the fact. Maybe not as recently as a couple years ago, but like, between 5 and 10 years ago. And it's just absolutely an amazing game. You can tell why it gets all the praise that it does.
Mm-hmm. Kios, Chrono Trigger. What's your history with that one?
Happy birthday, Solomon. Oh, sorry. So I have no, I'm not gonna lie, I bounced off of Chrono Cross pretty hard, and I'm not sure why. It's one of those games like I really want to get back to it and like get through it. But there's just something classic about Chrono Trigger, and I think maybe it's like when I first got to Twitch, like it was people like Plexel and BGG who were like speed running it and playing it at the time. Like I really picked up an appreciation for it. Also, Corridors of Time is like an eternal 10 out of 10 perma banger.
Yeah, I think, well, if you watch the show, if we do enough of these shows and you tune in enough times, I will never ever get off my soapbox that Mitsuda is the GOAT. And Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross have two of my favorite soundtracks of all time. So I'm totally with you. It was one of those games where I knew all the music before I'd ever finished the game. So, that's the sign of a good soundtrack.
Listen,
right there.
I will agree with you, considering I own Kirite on vinyl.
Oh, Hotbot made the joke in chat that I was going to make etiquette about Pokemon having almost as many characters as Chrono Cross.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a little bit more of a connection there than you originally realized.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, happy 30th birthday to Chrono Trigger. And then lastly, in the world of speedrunning, RTA in Japan wrapped up their summer event this week. They raised over 11 million yen for Doctors Without Borders, which is about $75,000 US. So incredible fundraising effort for them. This was also after it was disclosed that Nintendo requested licensing agreements with RTA in Japan to feature their games in the event. And as a result, the entire marathon schedule did not contain any Nintendo first-party titles. So that was a thing. But I don't want to dwell on that. I do want to, though, give a special shout out to the English Speedrun Restream, which myself and several other members of the RPG Limit Break community, I just saw name after name of like familiar faces from the RPG Limit Break crew, shuffling in and out of that voice channel all week, doing English commentary for the RTA in Japan runs. So To everybody who helped out with that event, thank you very much. And to the English Speedrun Restream just in general, thank you very much for bringing English commentary from that event to Western viewers. It's an event that I've just been very fascinated about with personally for many years now, and it can be hard to check out because of the time differences and just the language barrier and different things like that. But it was really great to kind of feel a little more connected to that event. The Japanese Restream community does an incredible job of showcasing, Western events like RPG Limit Break and GDQ for, Japanese audiences. So it was really cool to kind of see that reciprocated this past week. And all in all, it's just a really good week of speedrunning for charity. A lot of really fun games I'd never seen before. Did you know there's multiple train simulator games? Because I sure didn't before this week. And that is like a whole subgenre of a video game. So
Yeah.
just as one example, but yeah, it was a good time. And shout outs to RTA in Japan. So. All right. And then just kind of to wind things down, the last thing we wanted to do here, we got a little bit of a grab bag for you. We wanted to talk about some of the other either titles or video game related topics that have been on our minds lately. Expedition 33 has actually been out for a few months, just kind of the way the planning and execution of this podcast concept, it's taken a little longer. I think immediately after the RPG Limit Break event in May, I came back. I was like, I want to do this podcast, but I can't do it till after SGDQ. But I really want the first episode to be about Expedition 33, so we're going to lock that in now. And now we're finally doing it here in mid-August. But yeah, the game's been out for a while. I think in the future episodes, it's going to be more stuff that came out within like the past month or so. And I'll talk about that a little more at the end. But yeah, we wanted to go around, talk about like the current, like here and now, like what we're thinking about, what we're playing, different stuff like that. Etiquette, I wanted to tee up your topic first because I know you were excited to talk about some more Pokemon stuff. So
Yeah, so Pokemon's been really interesting this year. Obviously, on the speedrun side of things, we got the Switch 2 came out back in June, and that really revitalized a lot of the Switch games, just with the faster loads and things like that. And then alongside that, we have a new game coming out in October, which has been really, really highly anticipated, both on the speedrun side and on the casual side, with Pokemon Legends ZA. And really topically, Za. It was so funny because like when it first got announced, no one had like it didn't verbally get said. So like everyone's like, is it ZA? Is it Za? Is it Z2A? Like, anyways, so yeah, it's really great timing with the podcast being this particular weekend because Pokemon Worlds is happening right now out in Anaheim, California, and there's actually a playable demo of Legends ZA. So there's been a lot of really cool information coming out about that, both on the like able to be shared side as well as the leak side. So if you don't want to see leaks, which I know I personally don't, I would avoid things for a couple days. But the battling seems really cool. It definitely seems like a lot more action RPG like, which is weird for a Pokemon game. Pokemon has like even with Legends Arceus, like it's always been very turn based. And so seeing it go to the action RPG side after we were just praising Expedition 33 for kind of like revitalizing turn-based. But one of the things I find kind of interesting is like you're controlling your player character and you have your Pokemon out doing the battle. And so like the face buttons will be the different moves that you can do with your Pokemon, but you're controlling you. And so like there's going to be this weird dynamic of like, I don't want to stray too far from my Pokemon, but if I personally have to dodge an attack from like the Lord Pokemon, whatever it is, from Legends we had the Alpha Lord Pokemon. It's going to be this really weird play style, but it seems like it's going to be really cool. I'm definitely very excited. Legends Arceus plays very differently from the rest of the main series, and this seems like it's going to play even differently than that. So that is my main thing to watch, and that comes out, I believe it's like October 16th. I want to say mid-October. So
yeah, I will just say for myself, I have not played a Pokemon game in a long time, and when I got my Switch 2, that was the game I circled. I was like, this is the this is the Switch 2 game I'm really excited for is Pokemon ZA, and I might if I have the time pick up like Arceus and play that as well because I've heard that's like a really cool take on a Pokemon game from the Switch that like plays well on the Switch 2 as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who knows me, I'm not the biggest fan of the speedrun, but I did find the game a lot of fun. And I actually do, before ZA comes out, I'm gonna bite the bullet and try to get back into the game, just as a way to prepare for it.
nice. Yeah, that's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be a fun fall for the Pokemon community for sure. And yeah, with the Switch 2, like you said, it really has changed. Like, I mean, honestly, like every speedrun, every long speedrun on the Switch, like I mentioned earlier, Super Mario RPG Remake, like apparently that got a whole new reroute because the load times are so much faster. Like it's actually more advantageous to go different places and because the loads aren't as big. It's wild.
Yeah,
like the whole Switch 2 speedrunning ecosystem is just like the Wild West, and forget all the things you knew about all these games that you speedran on the Switch.
Yeah, it's to go slightly off topic. It's going to be like a core speedrun memory of mine. Was the night the Switch 2 came out, there were a bunch of us, like we have a Discord of like all of the Pokemon speedrunning people that like go to GDQs. And so we were all talking about the Switch 2 and trying to predict like, how much time is it going to save, especially like in Scarlet and Violet it wasn't just like, oh, Scarlet Violet on the Switch 2. It now has like a Switch 2 enhanced version of it. So we were all like independently in our own lines at like Best Buys and GameStops, like waiting in line for the midnight release. And there was a Japanese runner by the name of Carleo who was doing their first attempt on the Switch 2. And it was just like 10 minutes ahead, 15 minutes ahead. And we were all like independently in line, losing our minds in Discord because like the run ended up being almost 30 minutes ahead at the end of it. And now it's been, I think 36 minutes has been shaved off the record. Like it is remarkable.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so you just kind of like, you don't know what you were missing, right? Like
Exactly.
It's one of those kinds of things. So can't believe I wasted. You think of every run that you did, like, oh, I wasted like 40 hours of my life on load screens that I didn't need to be worrying about. No.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's fun. Yeah, very excited for Pokemon for the rest of this year for sure. With my own new Switch 2 that I don't feel like I have anything I'm particularly interested to play on it quite yet, but we're getting there. So
yeah.
I'll go next. I have been, aside from playing more Expedition 33 to get really hyped up and excited for this episode, I have been playing the Chained Echoes DLC, which came out last week, I believe. Echoes of Elrant. It is really fun. More of the really good turn-based systems and sky armor battles and all of the cool things that I love about the original Chained Echoes. And it's all self-contained, so that is another really cool thing about that DLC. If you maybe haven't finished the base game and you just want to check it out, you can actually start the DLC from a preset file that they provide, which I think is also going to be really interesting for speedrunning the game because we'll kind of have a standard run that like anybody can do. You don't have to, if you've played a casual playthrough and you've just maxed out the entire thing and done everything and boosted everything, and your file that you're bringing into the DLC is going to be way above and beyond like what that preset file would, but at least like anybody can do the preset file and then you're going to be speedrunning the exact same game as anybody else. So
Nice.
yeah, really, really good experience so far. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Lots of good new music, stuff like that. So I'm gonna grab something really quick. Has either of you played Chained Echoes or check that one out, or is that just a me thing? Which is totally fine if it is, but I'm just curious. So.
I have not.
Okay.
I have.
Yes, Kios, tell us your thoughts on Chained Echoes.
That is a great OST. I don't want to spoil or talk over much of what you've mentioned, but it's definitely a good game to go and check out, especially if you're into I don't know how to describe it.
You mean this OST that I have on vinyl now and I'm holding up for my camera?
It's so good.
It's so good.
Oh wow.
another kind of just like one person that I believe was kind of just like what you were talking about with Clair Obscur earlier. Kind of just got pulled in, like, hey, do you want to make a soundtrack for a video game? And absolutely knocked it out of the park. So, we love that for them, and you kind of hope that maybe when the major studios need a new composer or something, they come knocking, and it pays off for them, or they can get their game or their music out in front of more people. So but yeah, that's mine. Echoes of Valorant, really cool. I'll probably start looking at the speed run in the next couple days. I've had a pretty busy summer so far, but definitely want to see how that feels, just to kind of zip through the DLC as well. So, and Kios, what do you got for us?
Recently have been on, I don't even know how to describe it. I've been all over the place with a lot of demos and a lot of indie games. I'll give honorable mentions to Monomyth. We talked about that earlier, which is a modern dungeon crawler made by one person out of Rat Tower Studios. Free demo, go check it out. Also, friend of, I think maybe all three of us. Twirling Curtis is a RPG speedrunner artist. He has a game that he's working on called Negative Reverie that should be coming out somewhat shortly. But I'll take my 5 minutes of the spotlight and actually shout out a game I'm really interested in. Has a demo, should be coming out this year, called Tormented Souls 2. It is a prequel, or a sequel rather, devved by Dual Effect out of Chile. It is a very kind of retro. Completely forgot the word. Survival horror game, very similar to your Resident Evil or your Silent Hills. And hey, I know it's not an RPG, but I think it's really cool. Very small team. It just really exudes that old school exploration, kind of stuck in the Spencer Mansion kind of feel. And again, not a AAA game. A lot of indie developers, and decent price points. Like that $20 to $30 range on like Steam or PSN or whatever is just really killing it right now. Would recommend.
Nice. Yeah. I think we talk a lot, obviously RPG community, like the indie RPG scene has just been blowing up lately, and it's been really good. The indie survival horror scene has also just been incredible for the last couple years. I think about like Signalis especially. That was another game that just kind of came out of nowhere and just blew everybody away. Crow Country. I'm just naming a couple off the top of my head because
they're all good.
I am also a secret survival horror nerd. I love a good survival horror game. In addition to my
SSR
RPGs.
wives.
So, yeah. So yeah, we definitely want this podcast to be a place where we can just talk about the things we love, and it doesn't necessarily have to be RPGs, but we play a lot of video games. We're just gamers. We're just a bunch of gamers here. So. But yeah, I think with that, we're gonna go ahead and bring our first episode to a close. Thank you everybody who took time out of their day to join us for our discussions today. Whether you're watching the episode live or listening to a VOD or a recording, because we're gonna get that put together hopefully. If you enjoyed the show, please consider joining the RPG Limit Break community by joining our Discord or following RPG Limit Break on social media. I believe there is a link tree that you can get all of the links, but I know on Blue Sky it is at rpglimitbreak.bluesky.social. You can also follow or subscribe to RPG Limit Break on Twitch and YouTube to catch more great RPG speedrunning, as well as speedrunning adjacent content, which we're going to call this speedrunning adjacent content for sure. And we just really hope you enjoyed us. This was fun. I had a great time. I want to thank my two guests today, Kios, a little monster, and Etiquette. I want to give each of you a second, starting with you, Kios. Tell everybody watching where they can find you and what you're up to these days.
Inside your walls. Oh, sorry.
Oh
no. Yeah, you can find me, Kios Little Monster, on B-Sky, YouTube, Twitch. What I have going on, I'm actually going to be, I think today, actually going to start looking at the Clair Obscur speedrun. In all honesty, it's something that I've wanted to do a couple of weeks ago. It's just, you know how it is. Life gets in the way. So I think I want to take a first stab at that today and see how it goes.
Nice. Etiquette?
Yeah, so you can find me Etiquette, YouTube, Twitch, Blue Sky. And yeah, I've no surprises. I've been mainly doing Expedition 33 speedruns. I've been bouncing back and forth, mainly focusing on glitchless, bouncing back and forth between story and expert. And I'm probably going to dive into some of the side categories. And then completely unrelated to RPGs, I'm also part of the Donkey Kong 64 randomizer community. And the Season 4 tournament qualifiers are currently underway. There was actually one this morning that I commentated. So you'll probably see me doing some of those. I've been out of the game for a few months because of Expedition 33, but the tournament only happens once a year, so I'm starting to get back into shape with it.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, and as for me, you can find me on Blue Sky at moonblazewolf.fastestfurs.com or on Twitch. I am going to get back to streaming soon. I gave myself a nice healthy break after doing a lot of crunch for the recent Final Fantasy Relay, which was here on the RPG Limit Break channel. I had the extreme privilege of being able to run Final Fantasy X for that event. It was it is super fun. Kios can talk about it at some point too. I know you ran Final Fantasy 15. But for me, I'm going to be getting back to my normal stream schedule soon. I'm going to be working hopefully on Chained Echo speedruns, and I'm also hoping to get back into Final Fantasy 16 because I love that game, and I just really love speedrunning it. It is a game that it has not left my brain since I played it casually at this point over 2 years ago, and I can't say enough good things about Final Fantasy 16. So that's what you'll be able to check out on my channel in all likelihood. As for Fresh Files, that is the name of our podcast that we're doing here at RPG Limit Break. Our next episode, we're gonna start out a little slow, we're gonna baby step into this, make sure we're having a good time, and y'all are also having a good time. Our next episode is going to be on Sunday, October 19th. And our planned main game that we're going to talk about is the Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, which is going to be coming out at the end of September. Also extremely excited about that game. I love me some Final Fantasy Tactics. So you can check us out in a couple months. Until then, we hope you enjoy all of the amazing games that are coming out these days, RPGs or otherwise. And just thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. And again, thank you to Kios, Etiquette, and our off-screen producer, Ashen, who has been helping us out behind the scenes here. So thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.